Welcome back to Car Talk, where we take deep dives into the most fascinating cars ever made. Today we're talking about a machine that looks like it could have been driven straight out of a 1930s sci-fi novel. The Tatra 87. I'm Sterling.
And I'm Jamie, the T87. Czechoslovakia's aerodynamic masterpiece, built from 1936 to 1950 by Tatra, this was no ordinary car. Under the rear hood sat a 2.9-liter air-cooled V8 producing 85 horsepower. Now, 85 horses might not sound like much today, but back then, it pushed the T87 close to 100 miles per hour.
Which, according to the Motor magazine in 1937, made it one of the fastest production cars on the road. And here's the kicker. Competitors were running engines nearly twice the size and still drinking twice the fuel. The T87's streamlined design meant just 12.5 litres per 100 kilometres, about 18.8 mpg. Not bad for the pre-war era.
And that design, that's where the magic is. Hans Ledwinken and Eric Ubelacher took inspiration from the earlier Tatra 77, working with aerodynamicist Paul Jarret, the same man who shaped the Graf Zeppelin airships. That's why you see that famous shark fin on the back. It wasn't just for style. It actually split airflow, improving stability.
The Chicago Tribune in a 1948 travel column actually wrote about Hans Zelker and Zixmund taking their T87 across Africa and Latin America. Imagine navigating deserts, jungles, and mountains in a luxury cruiser that looked like a spaceship.
And speaking of spaceships, the drag coefficient on this thing was tested in 1979 by Volkswagen at 0.36. Pretty incredible, considering it was designed before wind tunnels became common in car manufacturing.
Inside, you got an Art Deco dashboard, suicide doors in the front hinged rears, and a rear engine bay that opened in one piece. But the rear visibility? Limited. You had louvres for engine cooling and tiny windows. Clearly, style and aerodynamics came before parallel parking ease.
And then there's the influence. Ferdinand Porsche borrowed more than a little from the T187 and its sibling, the T97, when creating the Volkswagen Beetle. Tatra actually sued Volkswagen after the war and won a settlement in the One Frost 960S.
The T87 wasn't just a car for engineers and adventurers. Owners included General Erwin Rommel, writer John Steinbeck, King Farouk of Egypt, even modern collector Jay Leno. Oh, and Norman Foster, the British architect. Quite the guest list.
But it also has that infamous wartime legend, the so-called Czech secret weapon. The story goes that so many German officers crashed them on the Autobahn, the army banned its use. Minister Fritz Todd reportedly called it the Autobahn car. Truth is, historians now say it was more about a few non-fatal accidents than a mass officer wipeout.
Still, myths like that add to the mystique, and collectors today pay for that mystique. Prices hover around $125,000, 0 cents for a good one. A restored 1941 T87 even won the New York Times' 2010 Collector's Car of the Year, beating out over 650 other entries.
What I love is how it combines beauty, performance, and history. This wasn't just transportation, it was a statement of engineering confidence from a small European country that dared to think differently.
And in many ways, it's still ahead of its time. Sleek lines, efficient design, and just enough eccentricity to make it unforgettable. The Tatra 87 proves that sometimes the most revolutionary cars don't come from Detroit or Stuttgart. They come from Koprivnice.
Well said. Tomorrow, we're moving from Czech genius to different fascinating car. But for now, let's just picture ourselves behind that Art Deco wheel, V8 humming, fins slicing the air, rolling into history.
I love that. The Tatra T87 is truly a masterpiece. Thanks for discussing this classic with me today, Jamie.
Anytime, Sterling, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Until next time, keep your engines running.